Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today I'll be having a conversation with Dr. Jovon Williams, a consultant, best-selling author, and journalist. I'm excited to talk to her about her expertise in bringing African American women to the boardrooms of Fortune 500 companies. She's just completed her PhD in Education, Leadership, and Policy Studies. She currently works as a consultant at one of the biggest consulting firms in the country. She's the founder and CEO of the Elite Consulting Firm. And in this firm, as I previously said, she just encourages Black women to get back and find their joy, find their confidence, overcome their pain, whatever the pain might be, and apply for these roles. Meet Dr. Willis as we share her story and why she's so passionate about helping other women succeed. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in the introduction, I have the amazing lady here with me. She's going to talk to us about all things being female empowerment and how you can find your joy. No matter what you're going through, you can still find your joy doing whatever you love. Jovana, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I am truly honored to have you. Where are you joining me from?
I am actually in the States. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, wow. Okay. And, I reached out to you because I read your bio, and your bio is truly, if anyone doesn't know, in case you missed my introduction, she is a consultant, she's a best-selling author, she's a journalist. And you are a lady who's really out there to help African American women to the boardroom, to the Fortune 500 companies. So this is something I'm really excited to know more about and how you're doing this to empower women especially. But before we get into all of that, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Who is Jovon?
Well, I have a PhD in Educational Leadership and Policy Studies that I recently received about 2 years ago. I'm a single mom of 4.
Wow.
Look, that alone, right? That keeps me so busy. My background is in coaching and advising. I started off teaching at a university level, and as I progressed in my education, I kind of switched over to administrative work and started getting into advising, coaching, and things like that. And so once I completed my doctorate, I transitioned to for-profit companies, or Fortune 500 companies and things like that, or corporate world. And there was a huge culture shock for me from going into an educational institution into the corporate world. And so one thing that I noticed was that there is so many, Black women or African American women working in these institutions, but not in those C-suites. And so I decided, you know what, we need to do something about this. Not only that, there was a statement made from the Wells Fargo CEO during the Black Lives Matter movement, and he made a statement that he could not find African American talent. And that's why they didn't have any in their boardroom. And I was just appalled, are you kidding me? This is where are you looking? Because where I stand, African American women are graduating at a accelerating rates, and so they're around. So why can't you find them? And so it kind of made me look into figuring out where the disconnect was and try to put it together. So that's how I started my firm, Elite Consulting. It's just basically just from my learned experience and just trying to come to a solution to this culture or social problem that we have.
Saying that about the comments made about not being able to find talent. Actually, I read in an article today that there's high number of unemployments, but the people who are advertising for jobs are saying that they can't find people. They can't find people to fill in the spaces of these jobs. So that's why the jobs number are going up. And the number of people resigning from their jobs are also going up because they get into these positions. They realize, is this truly what I want to do? In your opinion, why would you say there's that reluctancy, or why is that? Why do people feel that they can't find, like for example, Black women to fill a certain role? Is it that they're not looking in the right places? What would be your views on that?
I would say they're probably looking right through them, to be honest. I mean, they're there, they're in their face, they're just looking right over them, looking, looking through them. And I also think that a lot of Black women, and I've done some research, but we tend to suffer from imposter syndrome in the workplace, which inhibits us from applying for those positions, which we are more than qualified to have. And so not only are they not, looking for us, but we're also reluctant to apply for them. And so that's kind of part of the problem. And sometimes, I tell people, when you are in a position to hire someone, we tend to hire people who look like us, who relate to us, who come from the same background. And when you're talking about CEOs and what those boardrooms look like, they're predominantly white men. And when they go to hire someone, they also look for people that look like them, that come from the same background. And it's been this cycle that's been going on for so long. And it's really a learned behavior that we all have to unlearn, right? So I try to tell people, don't assume the worst, because it's human nature to want to be around someone who's like you. Yeah. But we have to break that chain, because what we know is that diversity is key in terms of whatever we do. Like, we need diverse people to make decisions for us. So it's really just about educating and pointing out, like, hey, did you know you're doing this? What can we do to stop that? So I think that's a big part of the problem. And I tell people, like, I feel like there's so many, women are educated, they're experienced, but what we're seeing is that African-American women went from being the help to the educated help. Yes. We're stuck in these administrative roles, these support roles, when we are more than qualified to do more. And we just have to feel that, know it, and be able to apply that into our growth, whether it's in the corporate world or wherever you work, wherever you are. Like, you need to be able to have that confidence to say, hey, I belong here. So.
I truly love that answer, because that is truly very true, that you need that confidence. And I remember going into conferences, and conferences will be filled with different ethnicity. It's very hard for a woman, let alone a Black woman, to go into that room and say, hello, how are you? My name is so. Because you're always wondering, what are they thinking? No one looks like me here. I'm the only one representing myself. So it's all about building confidence. And that brings me to my question, is that you teach students and young professionals to seek out opportunities, network, and utilize their great strengths so that they can reach their full potential. But my major question here for you is, what are the building blocks needed so leadership can hopefully prosper? What are some, because we always find that there's so much stumbling things that are blocking us from getting there. What can we do to overcome this so we can prosper?
Well, I think hiring firms like myself, like, if you don't have the inside, ability or staff or training, to do that, hire someone who could come in and think outside of the box. Because sometimes we get stuck in these boxes. Or what I find is a lot of companies are forming committees. Like, that is like the big thing. You say, okay, what are you doing to attack diversity? We formed a committee. Okay, what is the committee doing? Like, it's the accountability thing, so it's good to start with figuring out where the problem is. What do your numbers look like? Do people feel welcome? Do they feel like they belong there? What's the culture? It's one thing to figure out what the problem is, but then to figure out, okay, how do we reverse it? How do we solve it? What can we do? And it is just really talking to people who work in that company, like, just having those open dialogue and open conversations, say, what can we do to make you feel more comfortable? What could we do to make you want to refer a friend or family member to our company? What would you want to see happen before you do that? And just having that kind of dialogue will open up what needs to happen, because every institution is going to be different. I work for a wonderful company, and they are big on diversity, and we have those kind of conversations all the time. And so I think that that's what makes me feel welcome there. That's what made me drink the Kool-Aid and buy into it so much, is that they always welcome, like, how do you feel here? Do you feel welcome? What can we do to make you feel more welcome? So just having those conversations and then acting on it. So most of the institutions that I have been working with, they definitely have the building blocks there, the foundation. They've done the research. They know what their numbers are. They know how people are feeling, but it's the execution part. Like, how do we reverse it? That, needs to happen. And some of that is easier said than done, because it's really changing the mental, I guess the mental process is happening with your employees, especially from the top.
Yes.
So it's really about reversing the way you think, the way you see things. And that can take a little bit of time and training, but it's being consistent, and also having accountability measures put in place.
Yeah, absolutely. Your consulting firm, you started it to really empower and help other women, find their confidence. How was that starting a business for yourself?
You know what? It was a little bit difficult because I started like right in the middle of COVID. Because I was like, I knew I wanted to do it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm just going to do it. But what happened was when you start a recruiting firm, when everyone's either downsizing, laying off, it was like a disaster, but I had to kind of, idle it out a little bit. And I ended up doing training for younger people, like teenagers and young adults that were in high school or college first, before I started targeting companies again. But it's going really well. And I've started to network with people in the community that are looking for economic stability, who are really helping me bridge the gap. They're putting me in alignment with people who are looking for help in that area. And so, the response has been phenomenal, because so many people are really wanting to have more diversity there because of what's happening in the United States in terms of like George Floyd and the trials and the Black Lives Matter movement and all these things, the social unrest. Like, companies are really being proactive and reactive with making sure that they're doing something. And so they're looking for, help. Even if they have, people on the inside in HR that are doing training, they're also looking for outside eyes to say, what can we do to increase? So the, response has been like really, really great. And even in schools, because they're so, we talk about what's happening out in the world, but we don't talk about how this is affecting our kids. Mm-hmm. So even schools have been like reaching to say, hey, can you come and talk? Can you come and speak? Because these are going to be our future leaders, and we want them to go into the world with the right mindset. So just because of the climate, it ended up, I thought it was a disaster at first, but it ended up being just the perfect time for me. So
I think it is. I think everything happened. They had the COVID, the pandemic, then they had the Black Lives Matters. And I think that created a whole eye-opening for a lot of people to really visit their company and say, okay, are we really representing? Are we really doing the numbers? And your company, it came out at a wonderful time. Especially, I think I like what you said. My goal is to help change the dismal statistic of the number of African-American women in leading Fortune 500 companies. And I think it's exactly what needs to be done today to get more women confidence. But what are the behavior that everyone must have to be competitive? Because now you started this firm. To be competitive, if you're looking at a young girl is out there, she's thinking, okay, I want to contact Dr. Williams because she's really doing this thing. She started this firm. But what characteristics would you look for in a young lady, a Black lady, to be able to put forward her name for a Fortune 500 company?
You know what? I'm looking for someone who has the drive, someone who's like really hungry for it, to say, you know what, I'm here, I gotta be over there. Not I want to, I'm thinking about, no, like affirm, I need to be right there. What can I do to get me there? And, I feel like that I want to see like a certain amount of confidence in the women that I work with, but even when it's not there, I feel like those are the main people that need my help, right? The people that are lacking, that confidence to feel like, I should be there, so even though I would like to work with someone who's kind of ready to go, I feel like my target population is not that, is the women that are needing that confidence, and I also feel like the main thing that I focus on with all of my clients is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is so key when it comes to in trading any institution or organization that is predominantly of another race, because you have to be able to control your own emotions but also be able to read others.
Yes.
Because when it comes to being successful as a Black woman, it's more than being smart.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than having the degrees. It is more than working hard.
Yeah.
It's having the persistence, the endurance to deal with some of the things that you have to deal with, and it takes you having some emotional intelligence in order to be able to do that. So when you're thinking about a person that's a great candidate, okay, it's great that you have the degrees, it's great that you have it, but can you handle what you're getting ready to go through when you go in that boardroom, or when you're going against, or even if you have, 8 employees, which 7 of them may question your credibility. Yeah. Can you deal with that? Because I feel like as women, we go through that, but especially for a Black woman, we definitely, go through that. So I try to look for, all women really, but just women who are ready to go through it. So
what about on the other side, the other of the organization who's looking to hire these women? What are you telling these organizations to look out for in terms of incorporating a Black person into their organization? What wordings would you tell them to kind of, so they're ready, because they too need to get ready as well to embrace that new change and be able to accept that, you're getting someone, she's going to bring massive opportunity to you, but they're saying we have our different cultures, we have our different ways of doing things. How are you coaching Fortune 500 companies so to help them better understand where we're coming from?
It's the same thing, just increasing their emotional intelligence, because you're going to have someone come into your space who may be different than you, who have different belief systems, different backgrounds. Are you prepared to deal with that? Like, are you prepared to embrace it and not necessarily try to get away from it? Are you ready to kind of embrace that and take all the good from it and use it to help your company? So it's really about having them have the support for the person who's coming in, because you want to make sure that they're welcome, but make sure that everyone is trained to be supportive. Yeah. Because I think you find this I think this kind of came to me because when you look at collegiate environments, they look for diverse students, right? I'm going to give you a scholarship, I'm going to give you all this money, come to my school, right? They get them through the door, but what happens? They tend to leave because they didn't have the support systems in place that made them feel welcome when they got there. Mm-hmm. So even if you hire me, you say, I want a Black woman to come into this, in this environment, and we're gonna hit that number. If you don't have the support there to make me feel welcome, I'm not gonna stay. You know what I mean? So it's very important that you not only have your everyone that's already in that environment trained to know how to be diverse and how to encourage and embrace diversity, but also the person that's going into it. You have to make sure that they are equipped too. So that's definitely a conversation I have with every woman that I work with that contacts me. I ask them about that, like, okay, well, tell me about your experience, working in this type of environment. Have you had this experience before? And I kind of coach them through, okay, this is some things that you might want to be looking towards. This is some things you might want to, be cautious of, check yourself, so daily affirmations, things like that, so that they can gain the confidence to stay and endure some of the harsh environments that they may experience. So
I like that, because you're in your work, you just don't focus on getting women back to work or encouraging more women to be in the Fortune 500 companies. But another thing you do is, I read an article about how you help women as well, about people going through divorce. As you started the conversation, you said, I'm a single woman. But you don't just say, okay, I'm single, but I'm not going to stop here. I'm going to help other women who are going through a similar thing like I have been through, and help them overcome that challenge and pain that they might be going through. Because that challenge of pain or going through a divorce can stop lots of women pursuing their goal because they get frightened, they get scared, they get nervous. How would you advise a woman who's going through a bitter time right now to find her joy and find her strengths to become who she needs to be again?
Well, I think most of the time when I talk to women who, are going through a relationship problem or breakup, where a lot of times I talk to women who are still in relationships, but their growth has caused a problem in their relationship. Like if they are excelling for some reason that tends to, do something in a relationship. I talk to a lot of women like that. And I just try to tell them about having balance, but also knowing, what's healthy and what's not. So change is not always easy, but it's necessary for you to grow and become the person that you're supposed to be. And sometimes your partner doesn't always grow at the same rate as you. So sometimes you have to look at the situation and say, okay, am I growing faster than you? How can I balance this thing out? And if it's not something that they can balance out and they end up doing it by themselves, I try to teach women not to feel guilty about your growth. Don't feel guilty about moving on, moving forward, doing what it is that you want to do, things that are making you happy. Because in the end, your kids are going to need to see that. Now is not the time to fall apart. Now is the time to grow. And I feel like a lot of women, it's hard to get back in there and feel like, okay, I got to get back in the swing of things and do things on my own. And, so I try to teach them the importance of, doing what you love and being happy again, but most importantly, doing it for your kids. Because now you're the, potentially their sole provider. And so you're going to have to do it for them. So let's figure out a way to do it and be happy and healthy, and have a good family environment moving forward. So just trying to incorporate all of that together. And in my book, that's what I talked about, is just how hard it was for me to balance that, trying to have a family, go to work, go to school. It was a disaster. I was bombing it, and so I had to go through some things, and just people seeing me go through it but continue to push was such a motivator, to so many people. I didn't even realize it. I never gave up on myself. I never gave up on what was important. I never gave up on thinking the type of mother, the type of role model that I wanted to be, because life will always throw you lemons. Always, always. I don't care what you do. You have to be able to say, okay, the lemons are coming, but I'm just going to keep making this lemonade stronger and sweeter along the way, so that's what I try to encourage women to do.
But what kept you going? What really kept you going? How did you find that strength in you? Because a lot of people will be asking, what was her secret? What did she do? How did she know she just needed to pull it together?
When it actually started off from a negative place, honestly, because when I became a single mother, I was like not happy with that. Like that was not what was supposed to happen. I know a lot of women feel like that. Like I was not supposed to be that person. And when I ended up becoming a single mom, initially I tried to overcompensate for that. Because I said, okay, if I'm going to be a single mom, I'm going to have these little babies, if I ever decide that I want to get into another relationship, I have to overcompensate for this by being successful in every other aspect of my life, like being over the top in every aspect of my life. That's honestly what kind of kept me going, because I felt like, when it came to like relationship, I just didn't want to feel like a liability to someone else. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to make sure that my life balanced out. And I think, initially it seemed like a good idea, but what I found was that when I was getting to relationships, sometimes my success would be, I don't know, like a turnoff to some people. Like it's hard to be a strong woman, it's hard because it's like, it's I don't know if men are like turned off by that, or they feel like it's combative because you're so strong-willed and spoken. But I just tend to find that it ended up being like the worst situation when it came to being in a relationship. But when it came to my professional life and even my life as a mother, I did very well. So to answer your question, I did it to be more appealing in order to move on with my life and get married again. But it ended up being the opposite of that, so I guess you win some and you lose some.
Yeah, that's very true. That is absolutely very true. You know, you lose some, but you gain some. And I think anyone looking at you will know you've really accomplished a lot because you've dealt with your difficulties and you've been able to navigate yourself out of this and, see, and not just navigated out yourself out of it, but be able to help other women. My final question is about the attitudes. Has with the COVID, is COVID-19 has changed so much. The pandemic has caused so much hesitation in this. And do you find it more challenging now doing the business and trying to encourage more women to get into the Fortune 500 companies? And because of COVID, is there reluctancy? Is there difficulties? How are you seeing things now with the COVID now?
Honestly, it's the opposite. I think more women are wanting to own thing now because they have more time. They've been idle. We're not out doing as much where we have time to sit and focus on what do I want to do with my life, and a lot more people are starting businesses or they're trying to improve their condition so that they can move further in their career or their position. They're more motivated now. So it's actually a really good thing. Not only that, but the funds are there. There are more grants, especially for Black women, but just for everyone here in the States. If you want to start a business or maintain the business that you started maybe pre-COVID and maybe kind of went down, there's things to help you stay idle and pivot and then grow. So a lot of women are really focused on trying to do that now. It's really amazing because here in St. Louis, where I live, like we have one of the lowest rates in the country in terms of Black business. And so there's so much going on here to try to promote that. Is a beautiful thing because that's what we really need in order to create generational wealth, And so I'm finding that, people are jumping on the wagon, and it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I see it as well. I find that there's lots of opportunities because I think pre-COVID, a lot of things were hidden underneath the carpet. No one was really talking about it because we really didn't know how everyone was so busy focusing on their own little bubble that they did stuff. But I feel like COVID busted everyone's bubble, and we all have to really think about things and think about how we think about the others as well. Think about the real impact and the real suffering or pain that other people were going through. For the first time, I really sat back and thought about the others around me rather than just always being in the move. And even with the kids and your family, I'm sure with your kids, you saw a massive change. You stayed more at home to look after the kids. What's your message of hope to Black women out there who are frightened?
My message of hope would just be like, don't give up. Like, do what it is you love to do. Seek out what you want to do, who you want to be, and never let go of that. Like I said, you'll always encounter a roadblock. Just make sure you have plan A, B, C, and D. Always have multiple ways because the roadblocks are for sure. So you have to make sure that you have an alternative route to get to where you want to be as well. So just make sure that you don't give up, keep trying, be persistent, and make sure that you are surrounded by good people who love you and are going to encourage you to do so.
Dr. Willis, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed your, honest insight about what we can do and talking about the lack of Black women in Fortune 500 companies and why you started this organization to really help us and get more women in the board and also show them that they can do it and shouldn't be afraid. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.